Hello, my name is Brantley Greenlaw, and we are here today in Gospel Ministries International in McDonald, Tennessee. And with us today, we have a gentleman by the name of Steve Rawlings, and he has been working in the country of Thailand. And we'd like Steve to tell us a little bit about himself and about his ministry. So, Steve, tell us a little bit about your background.
I was a cabinet builder for 18 years, and one day I was driving a cabinet down to deliver it to give my final payment, and often when I'm driving, I'm praying and meditating, thinking about work, thinking about just what's going on and where we want to be in the future, and I'm talking to God. And as I'm driving down, I'm looking at, I'm thinking about all the things that we've been doing. For 18 years, I've been building cabinets, and we, just before I left the house, my wife said, "I'm glad you're getting a check today. We need to get a job really soon because we need more money." And so I'm thinking, oh, I just worked so hard to get this job done, and I'm thinking about my children. They're growing up, and I'm not being able to be the priest of the family because I'm working so much and as much as I'd like. And I just decided that I kind of got discouraged and depressed, and I'm talking to God, and I finally just threw my arms in the air and said, "Lord, I've been doing this for 18 years, and I'm not where I thought I would be, and my plan hasn't worked. You take charge. I don't know what to do." Well, it was just another week or two later, a family moved into our neighborhood, came to our church, and they were talking about foreign mission work. And we spent several months or weeks at least talking with them. And they were telling us all about the foreign mission work, which I hadn't heard a lot about. I thought that I don't know how I missed out on that, but as they were talking about it, eventually they said, "Why don't you try a mission vision tour with us?" And so we went to Thailand and India with them. And when we got to Thailand and India, we were a group of 17, and we divided into 6 groups. And because I had a family of 4, we were a group, and that made me the evangelist for the 2-week seminar that we were doing. And I didn't even like to speak out in Sabbath school, and I wasn't comfortable definitely up front in church. And so I felt like I was a little nervous about doing this, but we went through it. At the end of the 3-week series, we ended up having a baptism with 100 people from the 6 villages and the main city. And there were 4 people from my village there. And I was like, I didn't know that I made any impact at all, but I realized that the simple children's Bible stories that I had told my children growing up, that was enough to be able to impact a life for God's kingdom. And that really got me inspired to think about the foreign mission work. I saw that there was a need. And as we met with the workers, and we saw that they needed more support. The few Bible workers that were there, it was just an overwhelming amount of work. And I got this idea that I don't see how I can do it just short-term trips. I've got to move here to be able to really make a support for them. And so that's how we got started in the mission work. But when we got back home, I was on fire. I was ready to pack up and leave tomorrow. But my wife didn't have that same impression that I got, or that same call. And so it was quite a process. It actually ended up being 3.5 years before we left again.
Wow.
And so during that 3.5 years, I developed a habit of getting up for 2 to 3 hours every morning, sometimes 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning until 5 or 6, and just praying and studying and reading and just getting confirmation that this was really God's call. Well, it was after one of those prayer times and study times, I'd be just bubbling over with excitement, and I would leave my worship time just with a song in my heart, and I just had to tell somebody, so I'd rush over to tell my wife, "Look what I found here in this book. Look what it says about families in the mission field." And she would have to go lay down. It was she developed adrenal fatigue over the stress of this idea of going to a foreign land, and so it was getting serious. And we decided. I mean, here after about 3.5 years, I was praying one morning, Lord, did you really call me to this work, or is this my own selfish plan? Because I don't want to destroy my family over a plan that is my selfish idea.
Did you ever have the idea of putting some fleece out there? Like, Lord, give me a sign?
I just patiently kept praying and waiting. I didn't think about putting a fleece out. But when I prayed that prayer for God to make it clear if this was my selfish idea, it was just a few days later, my wife Lynette said, let's just try it for 1 year. And so I'm like, 1 year is good enough to start. And so I was ready. I said, okay, then what are we going to need to do to make this really happen? And what will it take to relocate our family in Thailand? And what if, because we didn't know much. We had visited for a few weeks, but we didn't really know anyone there. There wasn't anyone calling us to come help them. So it was kind of not a structured plan, just a really strong impression that God was calling me to this foreign work.
So you didn't know of any other ministries that were working in the area?
We knew of people that were working in Thailand, but they're all scattered out. They're not really, I mean, there's projects all over, but we weren't really going with the idea we're going to go help that project. We just, in my studies, I read a quote that said, if families will move to the dark locations of the earth and let the light of Jesus shine through them, much can be accomplished. And as we thought about what much could God do with our family, we're not evangelists, we're not teachers, we're not medical people, I'm just a cabinet builder. What can he do with us? And then my wife said, well, if we seek first God's kingdom, will he really take care of our needs? Can we trust that, his word? And so this was kind of the extreme step of faith, maybe, to just test God's word, see if it would really work. It's just about our family. We don't even know what we're going to, what kind of impact we're going to make when we get there.
So what is the process that you had to go through next?
So we decided our comfort zone would be $3,000. We could probably reestablish our home in Thailand for our family of 4. We have a son and a daughter. And so we started selling things. I started phasing out my work. We started putting everything in order. And we finally got down to the point where we had no work, no debts, but we had a house that my wife's parents said, we don't think you'll be there that long. We'll just take care of it. So we cut off our work. We're out of debt. We're ready to go, but we don't have that $3,000 safety net that we thought we needed to reestablish a home in Thailand. So we said, well, let's just start telling people that we're going to move to Thailand and do mission work and see what happens. So we asked, we're talking to friends, and one friend said, we'll buy your family's one-way tickets. Not one-way tickets, visas for the year. And then another family said, we'll pay for a rental car to get you from your home in Idaho to the Seattle airport. And I'm getting excited. This is God confirming our plan. And then a friend said, we'll buy you one-way tickets. And I'm like, yes, we're on our way now. We know when we can go. And my wife said, one-way tickets? Aren't we coming back in a year? How will we get back? And as we prayed about that, we talked about it, and she knows that God is always taking care of our needs, and we knew that that was the right thing. So here we are, it's 1 month before we're leaving, and we only have $400 in our bank account. So I'm on my knees again, talking to God, telling him how to fix this problem that we were planning on having 3,000, but there's only 400, and I was explaining what he could probably do to make that work out, and I got this distinct interruption in my thoughts that said, read Luke 10. And I'm thinking, Luke 10, what is that talking about? I opened my Bible and I'm looking at Luke 10, and in verse 4 it says, and when you go, don't take an extra coat, and don't take extra shoes, don't take extra money or any money in your purse. And I'm thinking, Lord, are you saying go with $400? This is crazy. This is way too bigger than I expected. This is way too far out of my comfort zone. I need to think about this. And I spent the next 30 minutes wrestling over this decision I had to make. And as I was praying about it and thinking about it, I opened the book Desire of Ages. And in the chapter, Go Ye into All the World, Ellen White talks about when we're sent to the foreign mission field to just take what's necessary. Don't plan and don't take extra. Just go with the very much you need, and God will provide the rest. And so I knew I can either wait for the $3,000 or we can go with what God leaves us with. So we ended up leaving our house with $900 and one-way tickets to Thailand. But God showed us that's enough to keep us there for 10 years. And so it was a big step out of our comfort zone, but he made it work.
So that comfort zone is kind of what we all have in our lives, and it's that leap of faith, it's that stepping forth out of that comfort zone that God can then use and show us the miracles of opening the doors to get us to the place where we need to be to witness for the souls, to witness, to bring souls to Christ. So at that point, you guys boarded a plane and you were able to get to Thailand. What happened when you got there? What was it like?
When we got there, before we left the States, like 3 days before we're leaving, we know our plane's going to land at midnight, and we don't have anyone to pick us up. We don't know where we're supposed to go when we get there. But when we had visited on the Mission Vision tour, we realized that some of the hotels will pick you up at the airport. So we went online real quick, and we found a hotel that offered airport service, and we booked with them. And then, so when we arrived at Thailand at midnight, there was a man from the hotel there to greet us and into this country that we don't know much about. And so that's the way we started our time in Thailand.
So once you were there and you have arrived, and was there a place to stay? Did you have to look for a place to stay? And then from there, how did you get started with witnessing to people? And how did what did God give you an idea of what you should do, or did you just go there saying, Lord, show us? Yes,
well, we stayed in the hotel for 9 days, and then we're thinking we've got to get out of this hotel. It's inexpensive, $20 to $30 a night, but it's still $900 doesn't last long. And we had actually, when I did a talk in Seattle just before we got on the plane, and someone gave us $500. So we actually landed in Thailand with $1,400, which that extra $5 was what we needed to get through the hotel experience and into a house. So we're looking online, we're thinking, how much can we afford for rent on a budget of faith? How much do we look for a rent? And we just came to the idea that maybe $300 a month is reasonable. Let's try to find something for $300 a month. So we start going online, and we find this house, and we get someone to drive us out to it. And it took him 2 hours to find the house. It was like a gated community. And finally he found it. We went into the office, and he asked about it, and it was already rented. And after 2 hours, and we didn't even get to see the house, we were a little disappointed. But I asked the man, will you just drive through this community and see if there's any more for rent signs on any of the houses? Well, we did. He started going, and for another hour, he stopped at 5 or 6 houses. And it was Friday afternoon. It's like 2 or 3 o'clock, and we're thinking, well, we better just end it for this week. We'll have to start again Sunday. We were ready to tell him to just take us back, and he pulled in front of a house. And this house was really nice. My wife goes, "Oh, that's nice." See, we had been looking at houses, and because we had no money, we needed a furnished house. And the furniture was usually just dirty or animals all over or smell like smoke or broken down. And my wife's like, "No, I can't live in this. We can't do that." And so we got to this house. It was clean on the outside. It looked pretty new, and it looked more Western style. This is in the city of Chiang Mai.
Okay.
So we go inside, and here's a clean tile floors and wallpaper on the walls. It had 2 bathrooms with hot water heaters on them. And it was very nice. And my wife said, "Yeah, we could do this." And so we started asking questions to this man. Where would we buy water? Can we have internet? All these questions. There was too much English for him. So he called the owner of the house. And the owner, he worked for the military, but he lived in Bangkok. He had good English, but he was a Thai person. And they were talking to him, then they handed me the phone, and I said, "Hello?" And he said, "What do I need to do to get you to rent my house?" And I'm like, "It's empty. There's no furniture in it. I wonder if I ask him for furniture, will he raise the price?" And the price was actually only $225 a month, so we were feeling good about where we were, but I went ahead and asked him. And I said, "Well, do you have any furniture for this house?" He said, "No, I don't know what you foreigners like, but if you rent my house, I'll take you to the store tomorrow and we'll buy whatever you need." And I'm like, wow, that seems strange. How do Thai people make money in real estate here? Because I signed a 6-month contract. I gave him $825, and he took us and bought $2,000 worth of furniture. So I don't know how it works, but that's how we got our home. Not only did God give us a clean home, but he gave my wife clean furniture in a new area. And so that really helped her with that transition from the Western to the Asian culture. And it was God blessed us. And he blessed our children by sending a family. Just 2 weeks later, another family from Tennessee kind of had the same experience, just sold out and went. And they ended up 10 minutes from us in the same city with 2 children their age.
So how many children do you have?
I have 2 children. I have a son that's 22 and a daughter that's 25 now, and she's been married for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And so
how old were they when you went to Thailand?
My son was 11 and my daughter was 14 when they got there. So they spent half of their life in Thailand.
But they were at the age there where they're kind of involved in peer pressure?
Maybe, yeah. They had a lot of friends they left behind. And so it was a sacrifice for all of us. Friends, pets, home, relatives, families. It was a big sacrifice, but we saw that God will take care of the details. And we found out that if God is calling us and it seems scary, go anyway, because he'll prove to you that it's just as comfortable in that spot as it was back there where you felt like you were in comfort.
So you're there now. So how is it that you were able to start a ministry? Because there was no ministry there, you said. You had no, other independent ministries or the conference helping you?
Yeah, no one, we weren't.
You're going there on your own.
Yeah.
And so now how do you get started? Are you just witnessing?
So we
people?
thought, the quote said, just move to a dark location and let the light of Jesus shine through you. So we're very friendly and easy to get along with. We thought maybe we'll just learn the language. Maybe we'll be able to start some Bible studies. Maybe we'll plant a church. I don't know how God will lead on this, but we planted ourselves in this community because it was all Thai people around us. And we thought if we would be able to be a better influence and we would learn the culture faster and we would be able to just be able to connect faster that way. And so we decided we'll take lessons, we'll learn Thai. We hired a private tutor and we brought her to our house and she would teach us every day. And after 3 months, my head was hurting. I didn't know. I was always asking, can we just review last week? I was not going forward. I was just going backward. And I thought, Jesus will come before I learn this language. I'm not going to be able to help anyone here. And I started praying, Lord, why did you send us here? What should we be doing? And then I found out that the Adventist Church had been in Thailand since 1905. And I was thinking, oh, so you didn't send me here to finish the work in Thailand? It's been going on forever. And so we started praying, Lord, we know you have consecrated workers that are committed to the mission of bringing the gospel to all the world. Please connect us with those people. And so just a few months later, we had a pastor ask us to help him with his ministry. He had worked for the Thailand mission for 40 years and retired. But in that 40 years, he had helped his people, the Karen people. He had built schools, churches. He had built a whole infrastructure for Karen Adventism. And he told me, I don't think my people understand the mission of this foundation he had started. And he really wanted to help them, but he wanted to teach them, but he couldn't afford to. He was spending 7-8 months of his year going around and raising funds to support the work that he had started. At the time, he had 42 mission schools, about 5,000 kids in his Adventist mission schools, and 220 teachers and 35 Bible workers, and 10 dormitories. And so that's a lot to take care of. And so I thought, well, I don't know how to fundraise. I don't know how to do that, but I'll help him if I can. And so I asked if we could start a school, and I would help him. I knew I wasn't going to be traveling around the country 7 months out of the year, but I figured I can at least do something.
So in this process of helping him, did you get engaged with any Bible studies with people? I mean, how did this...
No, I realized that I didn't know the language. I did some simple worship stories in the dormitories or at our medical missionary training school, but I really was there to help organize and fundraise. I didn't know when I was building cabinets for 18 years, God was giving me situations and skills that proved to be almost exactly what this pastor needed. See, I remember I was selling cabinets out of a showroom in Minneapolis, and one day I was driving home and this thought came in my head. I mean, I loved it. All I had to do was design the cabinets, get the people what they wanted. It was just a good experience. And I was driving home thinking, this selling is kind of fun. I wonder if I could sell God's kingdom the same way, if you use the same principles to reach people. But that was just a thought that came in my head. A little later, people were bringing me their house plans full of empty rooms. I take that plan and I go through and I draw elevations of every cabinet in every room, and then I give it back to them. And now they can see the big picture. They know what they're working with and what it's going to be. Well, when this pastor, when I met him, and he has all this infrastructure, but he didn't know, it wasn't organized. He didn't know how to report on it or really let people know what he does. So I treated it as a room. I took all these projects and I put them in rooms and I built houses. And it was just a way for me I could show him, here, this is this building, this is your education building, and all these projects are in that. This is your other projects, and I think we have about 3 buildings for him that cover all the work that he's been doing. And so this is what I do. Stepping out of my comfort zone is a natural thing for us now. For now, we don't mind it at all. It's always scary, but God always comes through. And that's the message that I want to give to people as we go and speak in churches and meet with other people. We want to encourage them to trust God, read His Word, and find those promises that are calling them, and then step out, even though it may not feel good. It may not even make sense sometimes. I don't know if it makes sense to leave your home with $900 in one-way tickets, but you just do what what He's giving you, and He takes care of the rest.
So how has this ministry then blossomed? How did God work in expanding your ministry there in Thailand?
Well, as we were working, the first 2 years, I was spending a lot of time just running from project to project to find out what He had, and I had about 4 local workers helping me, and and so we were traveling all over, just trying to develop all of those elevations of what we're looking at, and and as we're doing that, then we're getting more detailed, and this school that He wanted us to build, wanted to develop, the vision of His foundation was the health message is the entering wedge for the gospel. That was the foundation. That's my foundation, and every project we do has a health element as a way to reach the community. And we have very many projects, but when we started, He presented this idea of starting the school. I was thinking, well, I came here with $900. I don't think I'm supposed to fund this project, am I? But here's how God works. Here's an example of how God works. When we got there, we had gone to the local Adventist church, and a man from Canada and had come to the church with a doctor and his wife, and we invited him to our home Sabbath afternoon, and we told them, we were talking, and I found out that the Canadian man, he liked carvings, and I said, oh, there's a whole bunch of carving villages not far from here. I can take you there tomorrow. And he said, yeah, I'd love that. And so we spent 4 or 5 hours just driving around, getting to know each other, talking about ministry. And then when he left, he started getting our newsletter. For about 6 months, he had been getting our newsletters. Well, when the pastor asked me to help him start this school, I just put out a letter. That's all I can do is just talk. And God does the rest. Well, the next morning after the letter went out, I got a letter from this Canadian man. He said, we're in. We want to help you with that school. And they ended up funding the first 5 years of that program, that project.
Wow, praise the Lord.
So God takes care of the funding too. If we'll just put ourselves out there and let the light of Jesus shine through us, He puts the people in front of us that we need to do His work. It was His work to have a school so that the people could learn. We're trying to do the work through Him or for Him, but He has all the tools. He has all the funding. We just got to stand up there and say, we'll do it.
So we are the co-laborers with Christ, but in reality, this is God's work, not our work. And if we go there thinking that I'm going to do something, do you think it's going to go very far?
Yeah, no, I learned that it's like a big wall. You don't know what to do. It can be overwhelming. It was a big step from culture to culture. You can do it within your own country, and it might be not quite as shocking, but that was a big step going. God had our full attention. So we were focused on what we needed to do.
So you've been there how long now in Thailand as a missionary presence? How long have you been there?
So now we've been there 10 years. We've been working there for over 11 years, but this last year with the COVID travel restrictions, we've been in the States. And it's worked out fine because even while we're in the States, the evangelistic machines that these pastors have created over the years are still expanding, and God's work is still growing.
So essentially what you've told us is that this was a leap of faith for you, and then it was also a leap of faith for your family, because your family was not prepared to go to the mission field. They had different things that your children were involved in. Your wife was used to her life, and you were used to your life. Mm-hmm. And so there was a time period where you had to pray and really seek God for this answer. But just kind of summarize with us the whole process that you went through in order to get there.
Yeah, as God gives us experiences, He shows us what He has a plan for each one of us. And if we're just willing to follow Him, to not be so focused on our plan and the way we want it done and when we want it done, God has amazing experiences to take us through. And they're experiences that are full of joy. I have so much more joy now, even though I loved cabinet building and selling cabinets. I have so much more joy now for my life, for what I'm doing, and satisfaction and purpose. And so I just encourage anyone who is feeling like they want to, if God's pressing you to do anything, maybe maybe He wants you to go over and talk to your neighbor, or maybe there's someone in your church that's missing and hasn't been there for a few weeks. Take that chance and just go interrupt their lives. You don't know what God has been planned for them.
Well, thank you so much, Steve.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate you coming here. You have told us that you have 100 more stories, and we're looking forward to hearing those. So we're going to create some more episodes here where Steve can share more of the actual stories and the things that are going on in Thailand right now. So please come back and watch. Thank you so much.